episode of the Tim and Jim Show. I am Tim Sohn with Sohn Social Media Solutions here in the woods, as I like to say, with the bears and the turkeys. And I am here today with my friend and trusty co-host, Jim.
Good afternoon, Jim Fuse, and I am here in a little bit overcast and rainy Marietta, Georgia, where the Atlanta Braves have now renamed their stadium Truist Park as Truist took over the merger of the two banks, SunTrust and BB&T. Of course, I think everybody will probably keep still calling it SunTrust because Truist is just kind of a weird name for a ballpark. But excited to have our friend Ian, who we actually got to meet in person last year at Social Media Marketing World, and we'll hopefully be seeing him again soon. And he's doing some great stuff with live video. And so, Ian, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here and chat with you guys. So, yeah, where do you want me to start? I mean, I'm based
at
the beginning. Okay, that's fine. Well, yeah, I'm based in just south of Manchester in the UK, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to Social Media Marketing World again, seeing you guys, and yeah, so I help entrepreneurs level up their impact, authority, and profits using live video. But the key word is confident live video, because a lot of people see the power of live video, but they're afraid of pressing that button because I think the main problem that people suffer from is feeling like an idiot syndrome. They're just worried about something coming out of their mouths, or maybe the way they look, or maybe they're worried about the technology or what to say. So that's what I do. I help entrepreneurs with that.
That is awesome. So thank you so much for being here, Ian. And thank you at home, all of you that are watching. We appreciate you taking time out of your, I'm sure, crazy busy schedules to talk with myself, Jim, and Ian. So we want to encourage you guys to post comments, questions down below, anything relating to live streaming. I'm sure Ian would be happy to answer your questions. And we'd also encourage you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're really trying to build up our audience on YouTube. So if you just head over there and hit the bell, we would appreciate your support in that regard as well. So Ian, tell us, how did you get interested in live streaming in the first place? What was your journey to live streaming?
Yeah, I wish I could say it was like, I knew exactly what I was doing right from the start. It was all, I had a big strategy, but as like so many of us, I kind of stumbled my way and I found myself doing live video. So I suppose we have to go, I won't take too long on my life story. But just very briefly, I trained as a professional classical singer. So I trained here in Manchester at the Royal Northern College of Music. I was singing on stages around the country. I was teaching singing as well, but I've always been interested in technology. And so when social media came about, I started dabbling with it. I wrote articles. I wrote an article on Hootsuite and social media, which seemed to resonate really well. And a couple of them went viral. But it was back in 2016 when Facebook Live became a big thing. And I, like quite a few other people, were frustrated with it because I didn't have access on my phone. I was an Android user at the time. I was in the UK. And so I tried to find a way to broadcast to Facebook Live. And I've discovered this tool called OBS Studio. And it was great, but it was actually very difficult for most users to use. And so I investigated, I developed a tool, and I wrote an article on how to make it really easy. And that went completely nuts. And I think it's had over 6 million page views since I launched it back in 2016. I published it in 2016. Wow. And so I thought, yeah, there's something in this, I think. And it was at Social Media Marketing World when each year they have this, or the last 2 or 3 years, they've had this musical on the first night. And I've been involved with that, using my singing with social media. And I suddenly realized that live video, I had this kind of epiphany moment where live video amalgamated my love of performance, my love of teaching, and my love of technology in one thing. And so since then, I've been helping and coaching and teaching, consulting with clients all around the world on live video. And it's really been my dream come true. I've finally found something that brings together all the things that I love doing, and also helping people with their confidence, because I think that is the big deal. That's the big problem that people suffer from.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think even it's funny. It was probably really because of Kelly Noble Mirabella. Well, not probably, was because of her. We met at Social Media World 18, and she invited me to be in her group, and she had a live video challenge, and it forced me to go live and kind of get over the exact fear that you're talking about. And I get a laugh out of looking at some of my earlier videos. I think Tim and I would probably even chuckle at some of our earlier episodes of the Tim and Jim show. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's so important to get confident.
Well, yeah, but you've the big thing is you've got to start, and the first videos that you do, you'll look back on them and you'll think, oh no, you'll kind of cringe, and you started, you pressed that button, and there's kind of like a graph you can draw. You're going to start off with pretty much zero confidence, and the quality isn't going to be that great. But the good news is that the more you do, every time you're going to learn something, it's going to go up. The graph is going to go up. Sometimes you'll have the odd glitch. I mean, I'll be honest with you, this week I've had technical problems. My webcam isn't working. I've been pulling my hair out. It's been really frustrating. So, my graph's gone down a little bit. But the good thing is that I know, and with everybody, is the graph will go up. Over time, you'll become more and more confident, and the quality gets better. As long as you're learning, as long as you don't become apathetic about it and think you know everything about everything, then you'll get better and better, and your confidence levels will rise.
Absolutely. So Jim, do you want to take this question here? Ian talked a little bit about it, but maybe he could elaborate a bit.
Sure. So Ian, how can we get over our fear of getting in front of the camera, and what are some of the tips that you would share with us that you think would really help?
So fear is a really interesting word, and on my podcast, I've had the pleasure of interviewing lots of people who know an awful lot more than me on this subject. Psychologists and people who've written books on this. But one thing that when I've spoken to them that I've really empathized with, and going back to my career as a singer, is there's a real fine line between fear and excitement, and I think they are related. And so, actually, when you are feeling fearful, if you're afraid, then in your mind, if you treat that not as fear but as excitement, you can use that adrenaline that's pumping through your veins to help you actually do a better job. So in our minds, in our brains, it's almost as if our brains are saying to us, just before we press that go live button, you're going to die. And you've got to say to yourself, no, I'm not going to die. It's okay. I've got everything sorted. I'm going to be fine. But to channel that nervous energy into excitement in front of the camera, so that you don't become a different person. You become exactly you, but it's just with heightened energy and a bit more excitement into it. So that's the first thing. Don't be afraid of fear, but change that fear into excitement. And then the second thing is, don't just press the go live button without preparing. That is a recipe for disaster. You've got to know exactly what you're going to say, and you've got to sort out the tech. So I've always been in danger of wanting to press the go live button and hoping for the best, particularly as I've become more and more confident. But that's really dangerous. You need to treat yourself as if you know nothing every single time, no matter how many times you've done it. So I have a checklist of all the tech things that I need to do. So things like, for example, if I'm on my computer, restarting my computer, checking my webcam, checking my microphone, making sure I've got my headphones on, all these things. Checking the internet speed as well. That's another thing. And then also making sure that I know what I'm talking about. So I always write down the first sentence of what I'm going to say, because what tends to happen is you press that go live button and your brain just goes to mush and you kind of forget what you're going to say. So I've even forgotten my own name once, So make sure you write that down so you know exactly what you're going to say. And then you've got something to rely on. You've got nothing to in a sense, you've got nothing to fear, because you've got it all in front of you and you know what you're going to talk about. And so that's when you get to the point of going live. But there were a few other things just briefly to say. that will help you to that point. So one technology or platform that is really good to help you get to the point of becoming more confident on live video are Instagram stories. So Instagram stories helps you to be consistent in getting in front of the camera. They're only 15 seconds of video. You can do 1 or 2 of them every single day, and that's going to allow you to be consistent. They're only 15 seconds. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Because they only last for 24 hours and then they disappear into oblivion. So that's a really good way. A second thing is on Facebook, if you go live on your profile, you can change the privacy settings to only me, and then nobody's going to watch it. So that's another thing. And then the final thing is join together with other people. So this is, I think, what you were saying before. You joined a group of other people in a challenge in a private, safe place, and you went live. You committed to go live every single day. It didn't matter if you messed up because everyone else there was trying to do the same thing. But it was this. It was this commitment to do it. And I think if we leave it just to ourselves, we're probably going to come up with loads of other excuses not to do it. But if you've got that group of other people, then you'll end up doing it.
Yeah, and I love those tips you brought up, because I know even like today, I reboot my computer before getting on the show because you just don't know. There's stuff in your browser. I've had the same problem that you've talked about before with the camera, the mic not working because I didn't reboot the computer. And I think the checklist is a marvelous idea, and I think people have to think about that, because if you get consistent, it becomes a habit. And so, yeah, if you forget the checklist, you at least will hopefully remember some of those things. But no, I think it's a great idea. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love the checklist idea. I know for me, getting in front of live video I don't think I've even done any recording video before I went on live video. So, it's been a journey just for myself and as we develop the show. But Jim's been really great, really honored to have him as co-host of the show. But maybe Ian, could you talk a little bit in terms of how can maybe some people are fearful of the tech aspect, and maybe what are some suggestions in terms of the essential parts or some of the essential tools to getting started with live streaming, but especially how do you get over that hurdle?
So yeah, I think there are 3 main fears that people have with live video. The first one we've talked about is the fear of the camera. The next one is the fear of the gear and technology, which is what I'll talk about. And then the final thing is the fear of the content and what you're going to say. So the only thing I will say to be really clear in your mind, if you think that the issue is that you have a fear of the technology and the gear, make sure that that's not an excuse for you being fearful and to get in front of the camera. Because I had this. I didn't go live for a whole month because I was saying, well, my camera's not good enough, my background's not good enough, so I've got to get that sorted out first before I get on with my show. And then I had a long think about it, and I thought, do you know what? Actually, that's just an excuse. I'm just afraid of pressing that button. So I just say that because I've seen that with quite a few clients that I work with. They're trying to get everything perfect technology-wise, when actually the real problem is they're afraid of pressing that button. And so with technology, don't let that be an excuse. Most people have one of these things. It's called a smartphone, and it has
Especially
a camera.
It's an Apple.
Yeah. So
Android.
Whether it's an Android phone, I've actually got an Android and an iPhone because I love both. And I actually switched over to iPhone a couple of years ago because I was so frustrated. All my Apple friends were getting all the good stuff first. So I thought, oh, God, I'll get an iPhone for business, obviously, tax deductible, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it doesn't matter whether you've got an iPhone or an Android phone, you can go live. You've got a decent camera. So keep it simple. Start off that way. And I'm a big believer in bootstrapping your live video studio. So start off simply and then build it up over time. So the first thing, once you make a decision to go live, you can either go live from your computer or a phone or a tablet. But the first thing I would look at upgrading is the audio. And that seems weird because it's live. We're talking about live video, but actually, if people can't hear you, they're going to switch off. If your audio is really poor, they're not going to bother. So I would say get a decent microphone. You don't have to spend much. You can get, there's something like there's a Samsung QTU microphone is a really good microphone, or get a lapel microphone if you're on a phone. Just get that sorted first, and then the second thing, if you're on a computer, get a webcam, such as the Logitech C920. I've had problems with the Brio, but the Brio should be good when it works. And if you're on a phone, then actually getting some, like a tripod to put your phone on if you're standing still is a really good thing to do. When you're going live on a computer, so it might be a good idea just to very briefly talk about the differences or the pros and cons between going live on your phone compared to on a computer. So advantages with the phone, I think the lives that you do on a phone tend to be a little bit more raw and authentic. And I think people like that. People are kind of going away from the slick marketing stuff. So there's an advantage with that. They're easier to use. It's great when you're out and about. If you're giving a talk, obviously it's easier using a phone. But you can't share your screen easily on a phone. You can't bring in guests using the native apps anymore. In fact, Facebook has taken that facility away now.
Yes.
Obviously, oh yeah, one other advantage, Instagram Live. The only way you can go live on Instagram Live is on a phone or tablet. There are dodgy ways to get around that, but don't do that. You'll get in trouble. So yeah, that's one advantage. So if you go live from your computer, you can do more professional lives. You can use your nice webcams and microphones. You can bring in guests remotely, like we're doing today. You can highlight comments on the screen. You can share your screen. You can do how-to videos. You can also schedule your live videos as well, something you can't do on your phone using the native apps. And yeah, if you want to have fun and do lots of really cool things, then I think going live from your computer is the way to go. And there are loads of live video tools that you can use to help you do that.
Absolutely. And we want to say hello to Janie Culligan. She's actually one of my clients. You guys should check her out if you search for Janie Culligan Patterson. She just did a live video the other day, and she started out the video by singing. Totally unexpected. I didn't expect it at all.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. She just started a podcast called That Girl Janie. So encourage you guys to check that out. And we also want to give a shout out to Dan Willis, is watching over on LinkedIn. He said that his first 3 lives on LinkedIn had no audio.
Yeah, I've been there. I think we probably all have. Yeah, there's technical problems, and unfortunately on LinkedIn, you can't test. So that, because you're live and then that's it. And so that's really, I would say, for anyone just starting off with live video, and you happen to be blessed with access to LinkedIn Live, then don't start on LinkedIn Live. Start on another platform first and get your confidence level up first and make sure the tech's working.
And Ian, I want to go back to a point you made about the difference between mobile and desktop with live. I think sometimes, right, the thing that's holding people back, to your earlier comment about just get started, is the whole perfect, or lack of perfect technology, or not understanding the technology. So I think if they're going to go live on their phone, I think that's better than doing nothing. But I think people need to be careful about thinking, oh, I'm going to run all this live stuff just by phone. There seems to be everybody, like, even we use StreamYard. Oh, well, StreamYard, when are you going to make it that we can launch our shows from the phone? And you hit on all these shortfalls that the phone does. And I think the beauty of, like, even what we're doing is, even with, you could have been on your phone out somewhere, we could have brought you in as a guest. So it's great from that perspective. But I think if you really want to get effective live video at some point, you have to be using the computers unless technology changes down the road.
I think you're right. I mean, so there is an app. This is only for iPhones, for iOS, for iPhones and iPads, called Switcher Studio, and it's really, really good. I've used it. It unfortunately doesn't work for Android, although I think you can bring in guests if they have Android. But I mean, when I was talking to them about it, although it is an amazing tool and it's great if you want that mobile studio feel, and it's very good if you're on a remote location. But the main issue is that it relies on Wi-Fi or 3 or 4G, or 5G might save everything and it might be great, but we're not quite there yet. And so that is the problem. So when I was using Switcher Studio in my office, this was maybe 6 months ago, I didn't have very good Wi-Fi in here, so it kept on. It wasn't a good experience. Now I've got really good Wi-Fi, but if you're out and about, your 3G, your 4G might fluctuate a little bit, and so you've just got to be aware of that. So, and bringing in guests, for example, I've had guests coming in when they've been on a phone, and the quality just isn't as good. So, I think if you want to have a more professional live stream, I think, in my opinion, going live on a computer, and the other thing to say is, for decent live streams, your computer has to be of reasonable specs. If you've got a very old, cheap computer, then you're going to struggle, I think, to get the quality. So you've got to do your research, and it's something that I can help with. You can getting the right specifications, but also, so yeah, the specs of the computer need to be good, but also your internet connection needs to be good, specifically your upload speed. So I always check my speed before I go live, and I recommend ideally 5 or 6 megabits per second upload, but ideally more than that, because although you only need really 2 or 3 to be okay, the problem is if your internet fluctuates and you start on 3, you might be at 1, half or 1 or something, and then nobody can hear you, nobody can see you, and it's a complete disaster.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, you want to take this next question?
So how can we overcome the fear of the content that we're putting out on live video, Ian?
So this is an interesting one, because I think a lot of people get really maybe stressed or anxious about what they're going to say when it comes to live video. But the thing is, live video is really not that different to other types of content out there. If you pump out regular blog posts, or if you've got a podcast, then why not repurpose some of those things to your live stream? So you've just published a blog post. Why not talk about the 2 or 3 main points of that blog post on the live show? And so there's lots of content that you can produce. So there's, for example, there's the how-to type live video. There's the show format that you've got at the moment, and that's really good. I think you guys have done the right thing here, because there's 2 of you interviewing a guest. So that's a great way to get started, because all you're having is a conversation. Of course, you've got to research it. You've got to get your guest. You've got to know what you're going to ask your guest. But it's a lot easier than just, I will admit, doing a live show when it's just me is a lot more stressful than when I have a guest, because
I agree with you there too. And I think that was one of the things too, and this is something I would even suggest to people that are thinking about it, even if it's a business, right? Tim and I, by working together, we keep each other accountable and we keep each other consistent. And it's great bringing on a guest, because sometimes, like, if it's just going to be the 2 of us, it's like, what are we going to talk about? And it's actually a little bit more stressful than when we have a guest, because you're right. It's all about preparation. You knew what we were going to ask you before we came on, so you're prepared. And, and it's almost like we have our own TV show, and nobody can tell us what we can or can't say, at least not yet.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you almost have. You have a TV show. This is the new TV, and this is what is so exciting about this technology, isn't it? So,
yes.
So yeah, but in a way, it's almost like paradoxically, we talked about a lot of the barriers to live video, but it's also, there's so much choice. It's so easy, and there's so much choice that it can almost become overwhelming. And so I think before you even start to think about the content, you've got to have a goal in mind. What is it that you're actually wanting to achieve with your live video? Is it to reach more people? Is it to grow another audience on another channel? Or is it you've already got an audience, say on Facebook or LinkedIn, but you want to nurture those people? You want to be more accessible, because one of the great things about live video is that people can obviously ask you questions. They can get involved. You can even invite them on the show. I mean, one of the great things about StreamYard is you can then just send out a link to a person and bring them on and have like a talk show. So yeah, you got to think about what it is that you're actually wanting to achieve. And then once you've done that, you can then create the content that will really resonate with your audience. And so this is what I've done with my show and my podcast. In a way, it seems odd that I'm doing a podcast about live video, but I want to grow two audiences. I want to grow an audience who love podcasts, and that's their main way of learning. But I also want to have a live show feeling, and so and I'm talking about live video. So obviously, I want to demonstrate the actually live video in practice. So for me, it's all about me growing those audiences, but also showing that I do know what I'm talking about, and nurturing those audiences. So you've got to think about what it is that you want. And so I've gone for the show format, but there are loads of other types of things that you could do. You could give a tour of your establishment. You can do one of the things I really like are the sneak peek type live videos. Mm-hmm. So there's something new that you're working on, and you're sharing this with your audience, and you've not told anyone else about it. This is kind of top secret stuff. So your audience, already they feel privileged to hear this new information, and then of course you can ask them questions, and you're getting live feedback on the new thing that you're doing. So there's loads of different types of content that you can do. The problem is really working out what it is that you want to do, and then coming up with a plan on how you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's really great, Ian. And just a quick story. The other day, I was at a diner with my dad, and I was waiting for him. I was with my uncle, and we were at this diner, and this guy that was a previous client was in the booth right next to me, and so he came over and he started talking to me, and he said, "Hey, I've been seeing your videos on LinkedIn." Cool. He said, "Let's talk about doing some more work potentially together." So it's funny how people rise to the surface when you start doing live videos. Have you had that experience too, Ian or Jim?
Yeah, I've definitely had that, and I know clients and friends of mine have had that. So a friend of mine is I suppose in the States you call them a real estate owner. Yeah. So and they also helped. They're also marketers, but she was doing live videos on the houses that she was trying to sell, and she found that doing live videos, they were getting phone calls literally 2 minutes after they put the live videos up, because the people felt that they felt they were actually being given a private tour. I've also had live videos where I've had clients contact me just after, because not because I've necessarily shared something life-changing in the video, but they've been following me for a while, and then they've seen me on the live video, and they've realized that I'm actually a normal human being, and I'm actually quite relatable, and yeah, that maybe I could actually help them, and yeah, so there's that type of thing, and yeah, I think live video also has this. Because of I don't really like talking about the algorithm too much, but a lot of the social networks out there, they tend to push the live videos less so than they used to do, but they still. A friend of mine did an experiment where they uploaded pre-recorded video to Facebook for a 2-week period, and then they repeated it with similar kinds of video, but it was live video, and then the number of watch time was so much more. The number of people watching on live video was so much more, and they found actually although they didn't have so many people commenting, they had significantly more people commenting, but it's so easy to forget the lurkers. And I think you were talking about this clients of yours who was sitting in the diner, and they probably hadn't commented, but they were watching you. They were kind of stalking you in a way. And I've had that people are watching you, but they haven't necessarily commented. So don't be disheartened if you're not getting that many comments on live video. People are probably still watching you, and even if they dip in and out, that's still good, because they're seeing that you're being visible and you're being accessible, and they know where you are for next time.
Well, and that's a great point. I mean, I had a guy come up to me this past weekend that I had no idea he's been watching us on LinkedIn. He's like, "I really love what you're doing on LinkedIn, and I'd like to get together with you and maybe do kind of like a one-on-one show, because it's a local business, and cool. Tim and I have been talking about it, and you just have no idea." But I think the biggest thing for us, it goes back to consistency. Yes. And if you're gonna press the damn button, as Brian Fanza would say, you need to keep pressing it, and not just that one time and forget about it. So I think that's great. And I think that's what people got to remember is you don't know who's watching. I think I was actually at first, and Tim will tell you this, I was a little bit anti LinkedIn Live with the show, but I will tell you, I think that it's the best thing we did is by having ourselves on LinkedIn. I think we're getting a lot more engagement and exposure.
I've noticed that with LinkedIn. I mean, it's a shame that you can't bring the comments in and you can't follow them in the tools out there because LinkedIn's they're still developing it. They're still working it out. That's why it's still in beta. But I've certainly found that you get a lot more engagement. It's interesting though, talking about the lurkers. There are more lurkers on LinkedIn. So although you may get more people watching, and I do find I do get more comments, but even still, there are plenty more people watching than are leaving comments, and just be aware of that. And the other thing I just want to say is don't get too het up by the number of live viewers that you see. I mean, it's in a way, it's great that all the live platforms show you the number of people watching live. Okay, that's useful, but that does weird things to your head. So when you go live the first time, or even kind of you've been doing this for a while, and you see the big number 0 or even 1 or 2, that can make you feel a bit depressed and like nobody loves you. And but then equally, you can have the opposite problem where suddenly you're getting like 80, 90, 100, 200 people watching you live. And that's happened a few times to me, like completely out of the blue. And that you go, inside. So, and I've had some technical problems when for some reason people haven't been able to get on and it's gone down to 0. And I am feeling like nobody loves me. But you got to keep going because it's not just about the live viewers. It's about the replay viewers in the future. So remember that when you press the end broadcast button, in most cases, that will then turn into a regular video. And often there'll be more people that will watch the replay than the live. And so you've got to split your head while you're doing the live into 2. And this is really hard. And this has taken me a while to kind of get this. But when I start my live videos, I will address my replay audience first. I will say, hey, thanks so much for watching the replay of this video, because the likelihood is people aren't going to click the watch straight away. They're going to, it'll take them some time. So but I always, as I go through the video, I'm thinking about the replay and the live viewers. I want to spend time with my live viewers and replying to their comments, but I don't want to spend too long with that because that's going to be boring for my replay viewers. So you've got to think about those two. And then for me, I'm also repurposing it into a podcast. So I've actually got 3 audiences, which makes it even more. So if you're listening to the podcast, it's a bit like that.
Right.
So yeah, you've got to split your brain a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think one of the funniest ones for me and Tim was when the first time I think Facebook went down, we had no idea that it was down. And we were on actually with May King for like half an hour and we were using StreamYard. So it recorded and then we thought we had shut it off. Well, like 48 hours, it was still like nothing but a live black screen on Facebook. So we actually had to completely delete that one episode because nobody could watch it anyway. And so, that's at least a nice thing now by multi-streaming, we're able to capture it, not to mention that StreamYard will actually let you download the actual, not only the audio for podcast purposes, but the video with audio as well to repurpose. And I think you hit on a great point. And I know I really enjoyed, you had a recent article where you were talking about a bunch of scheduling tools. And, even that would be a good live video, if to talk about things as people are thinking like, well, why would I schedule it? And you can screen share and things like that. So yeah, I know you put some really good stuff out, Ian. So we're really grateful that you've been here today.
Cool. That's been great to be on. And I think what you guys are doing is awesome. And so looking forward to seeing you in sunny San Diego. It's not long now, is it?
Yes, not long at all.
Absolutely. So tell folks how they can find out more information about you, connect with you.
Yeah, so the best place is my website, it's iag.me, and I've carelessly scattered myself across all the social networks. But yeah, check out my podcast. It's still in its early stages. I'm on episode 35 now, I think. So that's called the Confident Live Marketing Podcast.
Awesome.
Very
and
cool.
we will be adding Ian today to our Twitter list we've now created for the Tim and Jim show, because one of the things we want to make sure that we do as well is we love our guests, and that way we're able to share their information through Twitter. So if you're a Twitter person, subscribe to the Tim and Jim Show Twitter list. You can follow all these wonderful guests that we have as well. And Ian does have a great program if you want to learn more about how to do your own live video. I think I actually won a prize when you were doing all that stuff. The course, one of your little course things.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Well, some of that unfortunately is still in development. But it will be coming out very soon. There's a whole course on basically how to communicate and with more confidence. So it's a whole warm-up routine. So it will be coming, I promise you.
Awesome.
Very cool. All right. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And we will see you next week. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.